Well, the ANC's Northwest province says a decision on Premier Supra Mahumapelo can't be rushed. The party's Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte has denied ANC Veterans League comments that Mahumapelo was given an ultimatum to resign or be pushed. So, can we get clarity on the matter? I'm now joined by the ANC's National Spokesperson, Pule Mabe, for some clarity. Mr. Mabe, good evening. Thanks very much for coming through. Clarify this for us. Has the National Working Committee of the ANC resolved to recommend that Supra Mahumapelo be resigned voluntarily or be recalled?
Thanks, Budvuyo, and once more evening to the viewers of ENCA. Budvuyo, I can confirm to you and the viewers of ENCA the position that has been reiterated by the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, which position is consistent with what we said in the statement of the National Working Committee. The recommendation made by the NWC was for the national officials to immediately meet with the Premier of the province of the Northwest, who is also the chairperson of the ANC in that province. One, to find ways of effectively coming up with a constructive resolve on the ongoing impasse, or those that would be able to act in the interest of the people of that province and the movement broadly. What all of this meant was it was consistent with an approach that we had already begun with, to meet with all our structures, accord everybody an opportunity to participate in feeding into what will become a long-lasting solution to the current ongoing impasse in that province. But another point that we must reiterate is that positions of the ANC are articulated through statements issued outside the National Working Committee, which statement was issued, further reiterated by the Deputy Secretary General. Of course, one of the things that we'll have learned over the past few days is there has been a meeting of the NWC, special NEC, which we ourselves, members of the NEC and members of the NWC, are not even aware of. So it is important that when some of this information comes up, it is validated with the relevant structures. It is befitting that our own Deputy Secretary General has already spoken on the matter, and I think that it provides the clarity required, not only by our structures, but by society in general.
Why has it taken so long?
Well, Budvuyo, I can confirm to you that we have been speaking on the matter throughout. This is actually our second bite here with ENCA on the very issues. When we issued our NWC statement yesterday, we were here at your Cape Town studios conveying exactly the same message that we are today reiterating. We have been speaking throughout various other platforms of mass mediums to convey exactly the same message. We had even said that in arriving at some of these decisions, the NWC did note the situation as it obtains and further acceded or further said that it supports the intervention of setting up an interministerial committee that is already doing work in the Northwest province, including the placement of certain departments there under Section 100. We believe that these interventions are a necessary tool and mechanism to be able to facilitate stability in that province.
Mr. Mabe, President Ramaphosa leaves the Commonwealth Heads of State meeting in a huff to attend to a problem which he said was urgent. You and I are in the Northwest when he arrives. You, the president, and all the officials of the ANC make an undertaking that this matter is going to be resolved speedily. Now, a couple of weeks later, there is very little, if anything, or movement, rather. Do you not think people will perhaps be fair to say that, well, if this is how things move, then maybe, you know, are you not worried that people will say your president is a toothless bulldog?
Well, Budvuyo, maybe let's go back. When the president came back from a working visit in the UK, there are a number of things that would have happened between then and now. At the time when he came back, when the situation was having its own problems, near collapse and all of that. There were challenges of service delivery. What has happened from then till now? Certain departments in the province were placed under Section 100. This intervention must be lauded, because what you do is when you get into an area and you find problems, you first establish proper regulatory mechanisms, proper monitoring systems on the ground to be able to understand the veracity of the challenge and make sure that whatever forms of stability you come up with are one that contribute towards the mobility of that province. Secondly, you also saw the military, is it as the army, the army's health unit moving into Mafikeng Hospital to begin doing work. All of these things are things that happened immediately after the president had landed in that area. Thirdly, you saw an intensified engagement with structures of the ANC, led by the Secretary General of the ANC. I can tell you now, there has been a range of meetings with almost all regions of the ANC in the province of the Northwest ever since that meeting of Friday in that province. Coming out of that, you sit a National Working Committee, which was a scheduled meeting. After that National Working Committee, you then take a decision. You say, one, you need officials to now have this meeting with the chairperson and premier of the province to begin looking at what becomes a permanent resolve to the ongoing impasse of that. I can tell you that in the next few days, we will be able to know what are the decisions arising out of those engagements, including what are the kind of decisions that are supposed to be taking us forward. What I can assure you is that seated where we are with the work that we are doing every day, there will be a decision, and one that moves the people of the Northwest forward. Unfortunately, what our structures and members of society are supposed to do is to allow the ANC the space it has requested to make sure that it moves with the necessary speed to resolve this. So, Budvuyo, like I've already said, you will see that with the number of activities that have taken place, this should now be telling you that there are interventions to try and find solutions. And we are moving with the necessary speed, I must say.
Well, I don't think you are moving with the necessary speed that you're saying you're moving with, because the structures of the ANC you're talking about made presentations, put forward their arguments, as well as their understanding of what was the problem. They did that on that very first day. So you left that room, all of you, knowing very well what your structures had to say. Now, weeks later, you still looking at what your structures need to do. The interventions that you are talking about were interventions that could have been done. In fact, it's an indictment on the very premier that those interventions were not done even before the president and the rest of the ANC leadership went to the Northwest. So the big issue here is not the interventions. It is not what the structures have had to say. The big issue is whether or not you're getting rid of Supra Mahumapelo before the situation gets under control. I mean, out of control, rather.
Well, Budvuyo, yes, Budvuyo, just so that we are all reading on the same page. And I appreciate that what we refer to as speed might not be expressed as it is supposed to out in the public. The National Working Committee is a highest decision-making body in between meetings of the National Executive Committee. This is now the National Working Committee. It processes day-to-day running of the ANC. These are the powers given to it by the Constitution. The next layer is the National Executive Committee. Now, some of the decisions that you are expecting us to be making are decisions that have got to be processed structurally. A decision to make sure that, I mean, there's not been an NWC since we met with yourselves that Friday in the Northwest. It only said 2 days ago here in the Western Cape. And after that NWC, there was a decision to make sure that there is a meeting, which I can assure you that in the next few days, you will be able to know, like everyone else in South Africa, on what are the decisions and steps going forward. So I'm just saying that there is work already. It's just that maybe things, the coordinated way through which things are taking place under the realm of the African National Congress would have to also be intensified to make sure that society also feels that we are acting with the necessary speed.
Mr. Mabe, thank you very much for coming through this evening. Pule Mabe is the national spokesperson of the African National Congress.